Hey, what's up guys, Wolf here. Apologies if my throat sounds a little bad. This is the fourth time I've taped this video today. For some reason my keyboard's going crazy and keeps stopping my video halfway through. So I'm recording and then all of a sudden it stops whenever I use my keyboard. So I do have, wearing down a little on my drink now, but I'm going to try and keep myself as clear and well spoken as I can. In the meantime, today's part 5, the last of the League Strategy Series. We are running the NU tier today. After today, probably tomorrow, but maybe Friday at the worst, I want to do a final video that people have been requesting of just having a PowerPoint slide, just a screen that has all the picks available so that people can have a visual aid to see exactly what I recommend picking, either to print out or I don't know. You guys requested it, so that's why I'm making it. And then we're going to go through and just real quick how to analyze the team. Take a couple sample teams from, say, the GBA or something like that and review, okay, where are they weak, how to evaluate weaknesses and strengths, and build your team accordingly. So, a couple things still in the works, of course, but today's going to be the last day of the actual League Strategy Series. So, after this, you should be, fingers crossed, ready for your drafts coming up here pretty soon. You got the EGL drafting this weekend. I think there's one other league drafting this weekend. UCL Season 2 is going to be coming up here real soon after the playoffs are done. TCL from the Reddit PokeTube page is also going to be coming up soon. So, lots of fun stuff. And considering this is a strategy series to be used down the road, all you guys are probably even further along in your leagues, and you're just looking for strategies. So that's why we're here. Let's get into the NU tier and get things started. First up on the list, I don't even really have to go anywhere because Archeops is the first pick I'm going to make. Defeatus is the one thing keeping it in NU. Otherwise, its offensive stats actually would be putting it a lot higher. I mean, this is like a UU quality stat pool, but Defeatus, when it hits half health or lower, its attack and special attack are halved. What that really means is it's garbage after that. So don't try and build it to be like a bulky setup, with things like Stealth Rock and Defog most of the time. It does have Defog and Stealth Rock, but honestly, you're not going to use them that much. If you're spending time switching them in when he's got a Rock's weakness, he's taking that 25% health damage, and you're trying to clear that stuff out, pretty soon you're going to hit that 50% mark, and then your Archeops is going to do nothing for you. Try and build him offensively oriented. He's got an excellent move pool to take advantage of that. Be able to run, physical and special for just about anything like Earthquake, Earth Power. He's got Heat Wave, he's got Head Smash, Focus Blast, and he's got so much stuff available to him. He's got Rock Slide, no Stone Edge, or he does have Stone Edge, sorry. He's got Shadow Claw as well. Taunt is probably the one support move I would consider running, only because its speed is decent enough that it can shut down a lot of those setup, lead openers that have rocks and stuff like that. So, those are the, nutty buddies of Archeops here. Excellent move pool, excellent stats, but be very careful about Defeatus. Don't try and EV for defense, special defense, or HP. Most of the time, you're not going to get anything out of it. Maybe HP just because Defeatus triggers on HP, but most of the time you're going to try and go offensive stats and just try and kill things before he dies. Next up, we have one of the most desirables by a lot of the high-end drafters in the GBA, Galurk. Ground and Ghost type is an excellent typing. Being able to have a late game ground type if you haven't picked one early on or they all got snagged. Offensively, he does decently with his abilities. No Guard and Iron Fist are both decent enough. No Guard lets him spam dynamic punches. Iron Fist is more just to spam all his other punches because his coverage moves. He's got Shadow Punch for stab coverage, which is a punch. He's got all the elemental punches. He's got Drain Punch. So he's got a lot of punches available to take advantage of Iron Fist, unlike something like Infernape, who doesn't have all those things available to it. It's got special moves, but its special attack is garbage, so don't bother using them unless you're super heat and you're running like nasty passes to them. And even then, why are you not just passing Swords Dance? Come on, let's be real here. We're trying to win. Things like, Nightshade. I guess if you want to run a support build with rocks, things like that with Stealth Rock, I guess something like Toxic or Substitute or something like that. Maybe you can use Nightshade. Most of the time you're going to take advantage of Iron Fist and No Guard, being able to spam those dynamic punches, which you'll see down here. Dynamic punch. And being able to take advantage of all that stuff. Certainly better use for him to be a little bit more on the offensive side, but he can run support as well if you need him to. After that, you'll notice as I keep going through these, Kabutops being next, I'm cherry picking all the really decently fast NU picks with decent attack stats. That's because NU tier is NU for a reason. And the main reason for NU is that the bulk on these things is, for the most part, terrible. Most of the reason why they're down here, even though they have great offensive stats, is the fact that they just can't take a hit for beans. Things like Regirock and stuff with his 200 defense. I mean, yeah, if they're obnoxiously scaled to one side, they might be okay defenses, similar to Rhyperior, where you just plan to take defensive hits physically, but you have something else for the special stuff in mind. Otherwise, don't plan on this stuff taking a lot of hits, so you really want to cherry pick the ones that are fast, that can hit hard, that you can do things like set up with, let's say, like a Focus Sash, do a Swords Dance or Nasty Plot or something like that, and just try and sweep. Kabutops, classic Swift Swim user, if you have access to that. Otherwise, weak armor's fine. Being able to boost its speed whenever it gets hit. It's not going to take more than 1 or 2 hits, but it doesn't really need more than 1 or 2 boosts of speed to be decently effective, especially with something like a Jolly Nature. It's got Waterfall coverage, got Stone Edge coverage, it's got Aqua Jet priority, has a couple extra moves here and there, low kick / superpower, knockoff, little stuff here and there. It does have Rock Polish along with Swords Dance, although you're probably not going to use Rock Polish. You're only going to run Swords Dance and just hope that it's enough. Support moves, Stealth Rock, Rapid Spin, stuff like that. Don't bother using them on Kabutops. It can't really take a hit from anything, especially the fact that it's 4 times weak to grass. With this low special defense, it's not living very many Giga Drains. Keep them offensive if you can, and then you'll be rewarded for it. Electivire, which is our next pick, falls similarly under the same idea, only this one actually can take a decent hit on the special side. 85 special defense is okay. 95 speed, again, okay. Attack stats actually decent. Motor Drive lets it switch into electric moves and get that speed boost. Things like, all of its coverage is great, but the big thing is that all of its coverage is pretty much attack oriented only, with the exception of Thunder Wave, which means it can carry an Assault Vest fairly well and be able to switch into a lot more things for more momentum. Things like Cross Chop, it's got all the elemental punches, it's got Earthquake, it's got Wild Charge for the physical, and it's got Thunder Punch as well, sorry, if you don't want to take the recoil from Wild Charge. It's got Taunt, but I doubt it's going to be fast enough to effectively use it against, most all the fast stuff, like the setup dragons and stuff like that have Dragon Dance. You're not going to be able to taunt those guys. Things like Psychic, if you want to run special coverage, does get Flamethrower for special coverage as well, for all those steel types that get in your way, that Earthquake might not be able to hit, say they got Magnet Rise or something like that. Otherwise, fantastic spread for an NU Pokemon, excellent coverage options, and the fact that it can carry an Assault Vest in NU makes it actually fairly decent. After this, we have the other decent special tank in this tier, Ludicolo. Ludicolo with grass water typing lets it actually take normal damage from electrical moves instead of super effective. Being able to resist water though, makes it very good at taking all those water moves that come at it. Decent special defense. You're not going to be using Assault Vest in this guy though most of the time because he's much better at doing subseeds, being able to get that substitute up, get that leech seed off, get back all that health. Things like Giga Drain to help get back even more health. This Ludicolo with a subseed set is extremely obnoxious to take down. Great Pokemon to just take hits, switch in and out, and get some substitutes and especially leech seeds going, and just be able to hit things with Scalds, being able to hit things with Giga Drains, and just being able to wear your opponent down. Now it does have access to Swords Dance, as well as you can see, an excellent physical move pool with all the elemental punches. Yes, all of them on a grass/water type. Kind of crazy, but its attack stat is pretty low at 70, so it can't make effective use of that unless you absolutely run Swords Dance and you absolutely boost it up. If you can boost it up, it's passable. It's got Seed Bomb and Waterfall for physical stab, but honestly, you're better off running the defensive set most of the time. You should really only run the physical if you know your opponent's really weak to it, or it might catch them really off guard. Up next, I don't know if anybody would even be surprised that I mentioned Mesprit. Oh, my throat. I mentioned Uxie as well as Azelf. Mesprit, pretty much almost the exact same thing. Why it's down in NU when the others are higher up, I have no idea. Almost 100 stats across the board with Levitate. Literally the exact same move pool, barring Healing Wish, which is present on this one and not on the other two. Still gets rocks, still gets dual screens, still gets Thunder Wave, still gets U-turn, still gets stab coverage and Psychic and Psyshock, still gets coverage with Thunderbolt, Dazzling Gleam, Energy Ball, Calm Minds, does get, I believe, Nasty. Oh, it doesn't get Nasty Plot, I'm sorry. Does get Knockoff, the Elemental Punches on the physical side, Power Up Punch, does get, it's got so much coverage. It's got Shadow Ball, exact same coverage that the other ones have. Why it's down here in NU, I've never been able to understand, aside from the fact that Azelf is used for its offensive stats more than its defensive. Uxie was always the, very defensive one. Azelf is the very offensive one. Mesprit is the balanced of the three. It's just the, equal on everything. It doesn't make it bad, though. It makes it arguably more flexible. It's the reason why things like Manphy and Victini are so good for me, because the fact that they have those equal stats that you can tailor fit to anything that your opponent has for you. So definitely one of my top 3 picks for NU for sure. Up next, another ghost type in Mismagius, another Levitate user, which is quite common among the ones that I picked. Just being able to switch in, against those grounds and stuff like that is definitely nice, as ground is a very good type to have in League. Special attack, special defense, speed, all high up there. Who gives a crap about the attack and defense? Oh, sorry. Most ghost types don't take knockoff very well anyways, so this is no different. Being able to run excellent coverage, Dark Pulse, Dazzling Gleam, it's got Shadow Ball, Stab, things like Nasty Plot for setup, Memento, and Pain Split. For utility, it's also got Thunder Wave and Will-O-Wisp to be able to inflict those statuses. It's actually a decent trick user of Scarfs, being able to trick a Scarf on a defensive Pokemon, Nasty Plot up, and then Sweep. It's got Taunt as well, although you probably won't use it on this, even though it is fast, because you want this to basically have Nasty Plot and 3 coverage moves and then just try and punch holes in your opponent's team. that's pretty much what it's built to do. It does have Destiny Bond. If you want to get truly saucy, I've seen it used on a Scarf before. Scarf Destiny Bond, your opponent never sees that coming. Being able to switch in on a setup sweeper, get that Scarf Destiny Bond active, and then bam, their setup sweeper's gone. So definitely got some options with that ghost type. Next up, we got the Doofy of the Year award to Quagsire with the Doofy picture. I always laugh every time I see that. Unaware is the ability of note on this thing. One of the few things that ignores setup sweepers, similar to Clefable. It can come in, even though its stats are subpar, doesn't care about stat boost, so the bulk tends to be a little bit higher rated on this. Does have Recover to help with that bulk. Does have Scald, which is also very good on a water type, pretty much at all times. It's got Earth Power and Earthquake. Does not have the elemental punches really to take advantage of in its attack stat. It only has Ice Punch. So while it's an option that's better than Ice Beam, a lot of the things that you actually want to hit with ice moves, like dragons, tend to be either as bulky on the physical side or even a little bulkier on the physical defense than the special defense. So Ice Beam generally tends to win out against them anyways. Things like Sludge Bomb and Sludge Wave for fairies, Stone Edge for coverage on Edgequake coverage. You also have, Toxic available as well. You have Encores if you want an Encore setup. Things like Haze to reset setup sweepers if you, for whatever reason can't kill whatever it is that's set up. That's an option as well. Again, his stats aren't fantastic. You're pretty much abusing him just for Unaware. Very rarely you'll use Water Absorb, especially if you pick him when your team is very weak to water. You'll get that Water Absorb, be able to switch in on those Scalds and be able to benefit from them. It's definitely something nice. But most of the time you're going to be using them to stop cold those setup sweepers, especially those dragons that got picked in OU and UU. Next up, Torkoal. I was actually not really aware of this guy being as good as it is until I saw it used in the EGL Season 1, especially when it was used against me. Defense of 140 is actually extremely good. HP 70, the defense, if you run, just regular HP and special defense on this, give it a sassy nature, which is the plus special defense minus speed. It actually is a very respectable tank. I'll give it that. The fact that it gets shell armor to prevent critical hits as well is just icing on the cake. In terms of usage, you're going to use them as utility most of the time, especially since its attack stats aren't the greatest. Being able to run, Stealth Rocks and Rapid Spin is definitely nice. Being able to run Will-O-Wisp and Yawn is also very nice. Clear Smog to come in and reset stat changes just like Haze. Gets just about every fire move available. Stuff like Eruption, which you're never going to really use. Most of the time you're going to use either Lava Plume to get that burn chance, or you're going to run Overheat, expecting him to switch out a lot. Then obviously run utility moves on top of that. That's pretty much the way you want to use them. You want to use them as a rock setter / rapid spinner and just kind of clear the field and keep that field clear for the rest of your team to start doing business. Last on the list, because sadly we are at number 10 already, Slacking. How the mighty have fallen. Back when Shadow Ball was actually a physical move, this guy was a champ, being able to have excellent coverage with Shadow Ball and Hyper Beam and stuff like that. It hit like a tank. Nowadays, not really as much of a tank. Still has the ability to Truant, of course. Still has fantastic stats, but the stats don't matter as much, knowing that he can only attack every other turn. So basically, I've always used him as a choice band user. You're only meant to come in, hit once, pop back out. And in that respect, he still has decent coverage, as always. He's got Earthquake, he's got Stone Edge. I think, maybe he doesn't, I'm sorry, he still just has Rock Slide. Shadow Claw now instead of Shadow Ball. He's got Slack Off, although you'll never really use it Sucker Punch priority. Again, you'll probably never use it. It does, however, have the elemental punches. All three of those, Fire, Ice, and Thunder Punch. It does have Brick Break for fighting. I don't think it has another fighting coverage, except for Seismic Toss. Whatever. Most of the time you're going to be running, 4 coverage move, Choice Band, just smack things in the face. That's pretty much what he does best. Being able to come in with something like Retaliate, though, creates a unique scenario where if you have slacking on your team, you can always trade 1 for 1. That's what makes him so good, in my opinion, as an NU pick, is because no matter what happens, most of the time, with Retaliate, 140 base attack power with this excellent attack. Anything that kills one of your Pokemon, you just bring Slacking out, Retaliate, it dies. You've now traded 1 for 1. It lets you basically keep things equal through the fight at all times until basically the last thing that's left is their 1 Pokemon against your 1 Slacking that comes out. You Retaliate and win. Most of the time, that's how I like to use them, as just something that can always threaten that Retaliate, always threaten that coverage. Now, you don't have to use Retaliate. After you've used it a couple rounds in League and people start catching on, you can start running more coverage moves. You start running the elemental punches, things like that, to predict the switches and get those kills against things like Skarmory, Ferrothorn, bulky water types like Manphy or something like that. Run that surprise Thunder Punch or Fire Punch and just smack them a good one when they come in and still maintain that 1-to-1 parity. That's the top 10 list. There are other things in here that are not absolutely horrible to pick. I keep burping today. Most of the time, anything that's going to be remotely usable is going to be an NU, with the exception of what I listed before, like Torkoal. The majority of PU is called PU for a reason. Most of it's garbage that stinks and rots and you never want on your team, with the exception of a few choice things like Imposter Ditto with Choice Scarf. Great at bringing in against a team or having on a team that's a little weak to setup sweepers, so you can bring something out when something's already been boosted, get that Scarfed Outrage going on those dragons, and punch holes in the enemy's team because they can't stop it because you've used their setup sweeper against them. Things like, aforementioned Torkoal. Torkoal is a very good PU type, surprisingly. Things like Meowstic Male for Prankster. Not the most horrible, but certainly not the best. Things like Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime gets Technician and Nasty Plot, alongside things like Dazzling Gleam and stuff like that, so could be worse. Things like, who needs this many Pikachus? I have no idea who needs this many Pikachus, but get out of here. Things like Probopass, as a steel type, doesn't have too great of a move pool, but it does have excellent defenses and passable special attack to get stuff done. Things like Regice, excellent special defense, can definitely tank some hits. Things like Shedinja, if you want to get too crazy, you start seeing a lot of your opponent's teams not prepare accordingly for Shedinja getting those fire type and stuff. If you see a lot of those pass by the end of UU, Shedinja could actually do work if you pair it with a Rapid Spinner to get those rocks off the field. Like I said, Torkoal before. Otherwise, that's pretty much it in terms of PU. Pretty much very few things in here do I actually actively want to pick if I can help it. Most of the time I'm sticking to NU. Getting things like, Prankster Leopard, for instance. Getting Prinplup if you, for whatever reason, couldn't get Empoleon. You want to get, that extra defog support. Muck's not bad. Being able to wear an Assault Vest and has a decent coverage pool makes it decent enough. Swallow's actually very good if you use Guts. Being able to pack on a Flame Orb or a Toxic Orb, and just being able to go to town on things with Brave Birds and Double Edges and stuff. Weezing, another fantastic physical tank. Access to Will-O-Wisp makes it extremely good at tanking physically. It gets Pain Split for heals, similar to Rotom Wash. Performs a very similar role, with the exception that you get Explosion on Weezing. So how could you not like that? You got Zadu for the Magic Bounce. For whatever reason, your team, might be able to take use of that. You have Sand Slash as a ground type, but it's pretty slow. Things like Rhydon, they're alright. It's got a Lightning Rod. It's a slightly worse Rhyperior. It's still a great physical tank if you need a physical tank. So it's possible. Otherwise, not a whole lot floating around. Musharna's not bad. Even though it's really slow, it's good heal bell support. Good as a Calm Mind thing, that sets up. I've had it used against me, and it actually works decently enough. Lilligant, one of the few users of Quiver Dance, especially something this low. So it can do work. The problem is it's just that it doesn't have a lot of defenses. So you gotta pretty much find the perfect time to bring it in and set it up. Lanturns, Volt Absorb and Water Absorb. Otherwise, its stat pool is pretty garbage except for its HP, so not my favorite, but it can work in a pinch. Things like Kling Clang, Shift Gears. It's alright. Its attack and defense and speed are certainly not bad, so it could do work. It's just not my favorite steel type compared to the plethora of steel types that are earlier on that do a lot more work. Other than that, that's pretty much all the stuff that really stands out to me. Claydol's alright, but it's very weak to stuff like Scald, even though it's got 120 special defense. Its typing leaves it weaknesses to just about everything common that's used in League, so it's not going to stay out very long. That's it's the reason why I don't like it as a utility Pokemon. It's not very utility if it's only living for 2 turns. But if your team can support it, it's got Rapid Spin, it's got Spikes. I think it gets Spikes and Toxic Spikes, I can't remember. Oh, it doesn't get either one. I'm a doofus. Apparently I don't know my own Pokemon. That makes me horrible at doing this series. What am I doing? It does get Rapid Spin though. It'll clear hazards. It does resist rocks, and it floats above the rest with Levitate. So just like Flygon, it works very well at switching in multiple times on hazards and being able to clear them out. But other than that, it's not very good other than that. You're really bringing them for utility, and that's about it. It does get, stab coverage and earth power and psychic moves and stuff, but otherwise, not really that much. So, that'll be it for today. As I said before, that's it. That's all we got for the League Strategy Series. But tomorrow or Friday, I'll be doing a short, probably like a 10-minute video on looking through teams, how to evaluate your team, as well as putting up that presentation slide so you guys can get a visual aid to print out of all the picks that I want to have, so you can have them in front of you when you're getting ready to draft, up here soon or whenever you plan on drafting in League next. So that'll be it for me. Thank you guys for staying with the full series. I know some of you have got extra picks that you disagree with and stuff, and hey, that's okay. We all got our play styles. Some of them are different, but guarantee you, if you stick to the picks that I'm giving you right now, stick to them. Keep those in mind as you're going through your picks in League, and you're going to do okay. Just stay with your game plan, build your core, and get things built around that so you have a team that's functional and works well together. That's what you need to be looking for. Other than that, again, I'm Wolf. Comments down below, as always. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time.